Welcome to lesson 32. This is on labeling and record keeping. We're going to be covering pages 173 to 177 in your book. So labeling requirements and record keeping requirements are always a big part of the MPJE. And we're going to be covering some of the labeling requirements here. Now this particular rule on page 173, rule 28.108, it's entitled All Permits, Labeling and Labels of Medicinal Drugs. And although it's labeled All Permits, it's very clear to me that some of those requirements in this rule don't apply in certain practice settings. So I've actually removed some sections and moved them under the pharmacy permit that they apply to. There's a little bit of inconsistencies here with sometimes with the titles of rules in Florida and then what they actually cover. But if you look at this rule, it does have label requirements for drugs dispensed to a patient. So these are for outpatient prescriptions. And you should just kind of go through this list, and it's very typical name and address of the pharmacy. I put some notes in there of things that I see on labels that aren't technically required. I mean, again, I hope they don't get this nitpicky, but sometimes they tend to do that. Telephone number is one it's not in the rule, but most pharmacies obviously put their telephone number of the pharmacy on the label. The one I thought was odd is letter F, that the rule only requires the name of the drug dispensed. I did not see the strength and quantity, the strength of the drug or the quantity listed in the rule, but I think most pharmacy computer systems include that as well. It says an expiration date or beyond use date, and the beyond use date can't be more than 1 year from the date dispensed. You'll see the study tip on the page 174 is, technically an expiration date is the date on the bottle from the manufacturer, but while the beyond use date is the date that's put on the prescription label. So the rule allows the pharmacy to put either on the label, but I think most pharmacies just use the beyond use date. And unless a product is being dispensed in the manufacturer's original packaging, then it's the actual expiration date of that original packaging. And the last item required on the label is that controlled substance transfer warning label. Remember, that's only required on controlled substance prescriptions, and it's all controlled substance prescriptions in Florida, even though most pharmacies just put it on every prescription drug label because it's easier to do that in order to comply with the law. But again, the law requirement is that's only required for controlled substance prescriptions. On page 174, we have another rule that has labeling requirements, and these are labeling requirements for customized medication packages. And customized medication packages are when a pharmacy packages more than one prescription drug into convenience packaging where all the drugs that are going to be taken at a particular time are in little plastic packages, and these are all shipped to the patient. So you might be familiar with Amazon's pharmacy pill pack that does this, and that's a picture of what one of the pill pack boxes look like. This has been done for a long time in long-term care pharmacy, but now it's become more common outside of long-term care with the advent of PillPack and some other competitors in that space. So slightly different labeling requirements here. Oddly enough, this one does require the telephone number of the pharmacy, the date it was prepared. It requires a serial number or a prescription number for the customized pack for all the drugs, as well as a prescription number for each individual drug that's in the package. The other unique thing about these customized medication packages, sometimes they're called med packs, is that you need the name, strength, and quantity. Remember, strength and quantity were not on a regular prescription. Name, strength, and quantity, and the physical description of each drug. Is it a white pill? Is it a pink pill? Is it a yellow pill? That's really important because if one pill gets discontinued, you don't want to have to throw away the whole package. And I can tell you, I was using this type of service for my elderly mother last year, and that happened very often. In the middle of the month, we'd have to the doctor would change one of the drugs, and I'd have to go into the packages and figure out which pill to take out of there. So that's why it's real important to have the physical description of each of the drugs in the package. The other thing that's different here is the beyond use date when you're using customized medication packages cannot be more than 120 days from the date the product was dispensed. And I point out some of these points that we talked about in the study tip on the top of page 175. So on page 175, we're now going to get into record keeping in this lesson. And the first thing here is that all your original prescription records have to be kept from 4 years from the date of the last filling. And take note of that. It's not 4 years from the date the prescription was issued, but actually 4 years from the date it was last filled. So if it's got refills, it could be much longer than 4 years, because the refills could last throughout the year if it's a non-controlled, up to 6 months if it's a Schedule 3 through 5 controlled substances. And most pharmacy records have been changed in Florida to make them all 4 years, but be careful of the ones that are not. And we talked about one, like immunization records, have to be kept for 5 years, because my guess is those would be the ones they want to ask you about, since those are not 4 years. Now, this particular rule talks about record maintenance systems for all pharmacy permits, and this is really about your computer system and how it maintains records. And I have to just say that these rules seem pretty antiquated, and a lot of it comes from DEA rules that we talked about earlier that require you to do these crazy things when they have computers. So they don't make a lot of sense, but I guess similar to what we talked about with the controlled substances, I think these rules were put into place when computers were new and people were concerned about manipulation of records and so forth. So you're going to see a lot of the similar types of requirements in these computer system record keeping requirements that we saw with the DEA rules as well. So one of the things you'll see on the bottom of page 175 is your computer system has to be backed up at least weekly. I mean, I think most computer systems are backed up daily, if not hourly, but by rule they have to be backed up at least once a week. And then the rules here for the computer system, as I mentioned, are going to be very similar to what the DEA has. It says on the bottom of page 175 that your computer system must have the capability of producing this daily hard copy printout, because we don't want anybody manipulating those computer records. So we're going to make you print out a daily hard copy with all this information listed on page 176. And